Is with us. More on Greece, Jamie.
Yes, well, Lucy, we're going to take a slightly more, well, almost a more personal view, because we've talked about the last chance for the country to stay in the euro so many times over the past 5 years, but it surely must be close to it. As Greece nears the edge of possible bankruptcy, what are foreign companies doing to prepare themselves for possible economic collapse of Greece and the introduction of the drachma, if they are involved in the Greek economy? Well, with me is Dimitris Paraskevas, who runs the Paraskevas Law, a Greek law firm which has expertise advising international companies on special situations, as they're euphemistically called, they face in Greece. Dimitris was previously Greece's Secretary for Privatisation. What do you reckon the chances are of Greece having a drachma, within the next few months?
Both Mr. Draghi today and Mrs. Lagarde said that this time is really serious, and I think, at best it's 50-50. We are at a very, very critical stage.
What are you advising foreign companies to do in Greece?
Yeah, it depends on their operation, whether it is generating revenues locally or whether it's an export business, and where they have their who they have their financings with.
Okay, let's imagine a company which is exporting out of Greece, a foreign company, it's business in Greece, exporting. What would you tell them to do?
These companies will benefit, if we go back to the drachma, from a financial perspective, because their costs will go down if there's devaluation. All banks...
Because they'll be hiring local people,
exactly,
buying local supplies.
They will be paying local salaries. Therefore, the cost of people will go down, and generally the cost of business in Greece will go down, and the revenues being in a foreign currency, pounds or euro, it will be a foreign currency then, or dollars, the revenues will be strong.
But what about a company that's just operating domestically in Greece and perhaps taking revenues back to its business in the UK or elsewhere in Europe?
This 2 points. One is it depends on the sector. Companies, for example, that are in tourism may be hit less. Companies that are, addressing the local consumer will be hit more. And also, for the moment, companies cannot really export the profits, dividends outside Greece because we have this bank holiday.
Okay, so what about, for instance, in the tourist sector? Supposing you're running a hotel in Greece, and supposing will you be asking for euros from if you've got European customers or Eurozone customers, will you say, I want you to pay in euros, thank you very much, even though we're in Greece?
Yep. I mean, many deals have been already closed, therefore these deals are already in euros, and therefore this will not be affected. But, from customers that, let's say Greece were to go back to drachma, let's say on Monday, okay? This is not going to be the case for legal reasons, but let's say it was going to go back to drachma on Monday. If I had a hotel, from Monday onwards, I would be asking my clients to pay me in drachma or in what is called IOU, which is some kind of entry in a computer.
Mm-hmm. And so, as a result of that, what would you do as a company? What would you do with the IOU? How legal would that be?
I mean, the company would have, the country would have to make a special, law governing that. It is going to be legal, but the question is, how will these IOUs be traded in the secondary market? We know that, for example, that in Argentina, the economy became a cash economy. Therefore, everything is going to be cash. I think if this is going to be repeated in the case of Greece, we are going to have more tax evasion because, cash economy means money outside the books. So the situation, I think, will further deteriorate for this reason.
What about companies that have got euro deposits in Greece? Are you telling them, get them out now?
Now it's too late. Unfortunately, because we have this bank holiday, you cannot transfer money outside the Greek banking system. Now, if we go back to drachma, or if we were to go back to drachma, immediately, from that day onwards, all deposits would have been converted into drachma.
Automatically, if you've got euros in Greece, they go straight into drachma.
This is what other countries have done, in the circumstances. I would assume the Greek government would do the same. Otherwise, another risk you run is for a haircut. Let's say you have $1 million in the bank, and the total deposits have to be converted, and therefore you may keep your money in euros, but the government will take a percentage, like an extraordinary tax or something.
One other question: if we go over to a drachma in Greece, are there a lot of companies sitting there saying Greece will be a place to invest when it's so cheap, labour will be so cheap, materials will be so cheap? That's a place to go and build a factory, for instance, once they've left the Eurozone.
Yes. There are two views. One is that immediately opportunities will arise, because if there is a devaluation, there's going to be, as market suggests, about 50%. Therefore, if you want to buy a house in a Greek island, it's going to go down by 50%. Others say that from experience, you have to wait a bit because the crisis will further deteriorate a bit after. Another issue is that, depending on where you want to invest. For example, very well-known destinations like Mykonos, I use this because this is the most perhaps well-known Greek island, from experience, prices in this kind of international destinations don't really go so much down.
Okay. Dimitris Paraskevas, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed.
There you are. Trading on the New York Stock Exchange suspended for more than 3 hours on Wednesday due to a technical fault. The New York Stock Exchange has yet to give full details of the problem, but emphasised that it was not the result of a cyber hack. Earlier, United Airlines and the Wall Street Journal's website reported major technical problems. Also, President Vladimir Putin is hosting the annual summit of BRICS nations in the remote Russian city of Ufa. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the South African President Jacob Zuma, Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff and the Chinese President Xi Jinping are all attending. At last year's summit, they agreed to set up a BRICS development bank, which has capital of $100 billion, and is going to pick the first projects to finance by the end of the year. Microsoft is shedding up to 7,800 more jobs as it reorganises its Nokia mobile phone unit. It's also writing off the entire amount that it spent on buying the company. It's about $7.5 billion. Microsoft has axed 18,000 jobs from the unit last July, the deepest cuts in the company's history. A survey by the research firm IDC said that Microsoft's Windows is expected to capture just 3.2% of the global smartphone market this year. Well, let's continue to talk about mobiles because the number of smartphone users worldwide is expected to surpass 2 billion by 2016. It's according to figures from eMarketer. And as a result, payments by mobile phones are also on the rise, so much so that mobile phones, tablet users are expected to make 195 billion mobile commerce transactions annually by 2019. That's up just from 72 billion this year. It's about tripling, in fact. It's according to other research from Juniper, who are mobile, online and digital market research specialists. In fact, according to a report from